Hey there everybody, and how are you guys doing today? I am Joe Maring from mobilecupofjoe.com, and in this video today, I'm going to be giving you my full review of the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini on Verizon Wireless. So the Galaxy S4 Mini is essentially the Galaxy S4 which came out last year, but with lower specs and shrunken down into a design that looks very similar and very reminiscent to that of the original Galaxy S4. This is a very compact smartphone with a 4.3-inch display, and despite being marketed towards kind of a first-time smartphone buyers, or if you're really just looking for a cheap new Android smartphone option, I really do have a few issues with this phone, mainly with the price and a few other things that I'm not so much of a fan of with both the hardware and the software. So let's go ahead and take a deeper look at my full thoughts on the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini in my full review, which starts right now on MCOJ. But before we go any further, please go ahead and grab that coffee cup, fill it up, bring it over, and sit on down. Take a swig from your mobile cup of Joe. Alrighty, so here we go with my full review of the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini. A big thanks to our friends over at Verizon for hooking us up with this device right here. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with our review. So starting off with my first con, actually has a very boring and ugly design. As you can see right here, the Galaxy S4 Mini, while it does look a lot like the original Galaxy S4, it just doesn't really do it for me. This hyper-glazed plastic, although I really wasn't the giant fan of it on the Galaxy S4, just really not liking it even more here on the S4 Mini. You can see that part of that reason, at least with the Verizon variant, is that there are 5 logos on this thing. Going on the bottom, you actually have a Verizon logo placed directly on the home button next to the capacitive touch buttons. And then you go up top and you have a Samsung logo right there. Bring it on the back, Verizon logo, 4G LTE logo, Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini logo. Feels like you're a walking advertisement for Verizon and Samsung with this phone. And otherwise with that, you know, this is just a very old design from Samsung. We've seen this in numerous products. This feels like a 2-year-old design at this point in time. So really not that great looking of a phone. But one pro I have with the design is that it's extremely lightweight. Coming in at just 3.77 ounces, this phone feels like air in the hand. I threw this in my pocket, totally forgot it was in there. It's very thin too. So it's a very compact device, which is something we really don't see in smartphones. Sure, smartphones, they're lightweight, they're thin, but they're not really compact like the S4 Mini. As you can see, fits in my hand perfectly. I can reach all 4 corners of the screen without really having to stretch my hand. So really do like the aspect of the kind of smaller screen size, being able to reach all the 4 corners. If you have smaller hands, this should be really nice for you. Again, not a great design, but it is compact, it is lightweight, and it is very thin. Now moving on to another con that I have with the device into the software in the hardware section is the display. That con is that the display is fuzzy and soft. You have a resolution on here of 960 by 540 QHD, which it is a Super AMOLED panel, so you know your blacks in here are going to be very deep and black, and the outdoor visibility should be relatively good with high color saturation. And you can see that, you know, things look okay, but if you get close, the icons look a bit fuzzy. Text can get pretty soft at times, especially if you're web browsing and whatnot, and this just isn't that great of a display. With 256 pixels per inch, it could be worse, but as you can see right there, colors, they're bright, but the detail just feels very sharp, or very soft rather, compared to what we have been seeing. Now granted, this is a budget device, but you look at something like the Motorola Moto G, which has a 720p HD resolution for even a cheaper price point. Having a QHD on here really does leave a lot to be desired. It gets through the job fine, you can still read things relatively okay, but it would have been really nice to see a 720p HD screen on here, because a QHD resolution really is kind of painful to look at 2014. Moving on to a pro that I have with the hardware is that it's a relatively fast for a mid-range handset. Powering this device is a 1.7 gigahertz dual-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 400 processor, and backing that up you have 1.5 gigabytes of RAM. I'm going to show you how Beach Buggy Blitz runs on the phone real quick. A fairly graphically intense game. You know, not the biggest game, but I was kind of surprised at how smooth it did run here on the phone. This isn't going to be the best phone for gaming, because if you're buying it, your main purpose for it is most likely not going to be gaming performance. But I was relatively pleased with just how Qualcomm Snapdragon 400 chipset did perform. Ready, set, go, and we are off with Beach Buggy Blitz going on that ramp. So you can see, you know, it isn't going to give you the same performance like the Samsung Galaxy Note 3 or an LG G2 or HTC One is going to give you, But when you consider the specs in it, you consider who the market is for, I was pretty surprised and overall pleased with the performance I got out of the gaming for here. Web browsing and all that is pretty good as well. You get a little bit of hiccups and you do have a little bit of lag when opening other applications, but again, for the most part, when you consider who this phone is for, processing speeds all around are relatively fast. Now, in terms of your optics and cameras, you have an 8 megapixel rear-facing camera with LED flash on the back, along with a 1.9 megapixel front-facing camera. And for the most part, these cameras perform relatively good. Again, not going to be getting that groundbreaking and that beautiful pictures you get out of devices with 13 megapixel cameras, 20 megapixel cameras, or the 41 megapixel count on the Nokia Lumia 1020. But again, for what it is, it does perform pretty good. I'll show you a couple pictures that I took. This is one, I'll get off of there, of just a water faucet that I took testing out the macro settings. Really, really good detail. I was surprised on here. This is actually taken in a 6 megapixel count because 6 megapixels is the count you get if you want to shoot in 16:9. You're going to have to go to a 4:3 aspect ratio if you want to shoot with a full 8 megapixels. But overall, very pleased with the quality of the camera here on the S4 Mini. Again, for being such a mid-range device, it was nice to have such good detail on here. Again, it's not groundbreaking, it's not the best we've ever seen, but for a mid-range product, performs relatively good. Now going on to a couple things that aren't really pros, not really cons, they're just kind of in there. Some specs I want to mention. Decent call quality on here. Everyone I talked to sounded really loud and I could understand them, but there is room for improvement with the call quality. Just kind of meh and bland quality in terms of reception and overall quality for your calls. Battery, you have a 1900 removable milliamp hour battery. If I can take the back off and show you guys right there, there's your battery. I was able to get through a full day usually. I had a very low percentage when ending the day, around maybe 10% or so, but the battery does get you through the day and that it is nice. It would have been cool to see maybe a longer lasting life just because you do have that really low resolution, so I was hoping to have maybe a day and a half of use out of it, but I only was able to get through a full day. So again, not really a pro, not really a con, but just something I did want to mention. And then going on to the software, another con that I have with the device is its outdated version of Android 4.2.2 Jelly Bean. If we go into our settings right here to confirm it, and we go to About Phone, we go to Android version, you see 4.2.2 Jelly Bean on here. There is supposedly an update to 4.3 Jelly Bean, but in my time with this demo unit on Verizon Wireless, I never saw an update to 4.3, so we are stuck with 4.2 Jelly Bean, and that is a bit of a disappointment, especially when 4.4.2 KitKat is the latest and greatest version of the Android OS. Having 4.2.2 Jelly Bean is a bit of a bummer. Another con that I have with it is that TouchWiz feels very slow and bogged down. No, TouchWiz, the experience is relatively the same for all of the Samsung devices. However, I did notice that it felt kind of bogged down here on the S4 Mini. And if you remember my review of the original Galaxy S4, I loved TouchWiz on there. I loved all the features. But if you look here, you see that a lot of those features you loved in the original S4 are not present on the S4 Mini. You don't have air gesture or air command or smart stay, anything like that. Well, smart stay, hold on, let me double check that. I believe smart stay is one of the few things that was on here. I want to say Smart Stay, are you on here? Smart Screen is here, Smart Stay is here, my correction on that. But you don't have any of the gesture commands or the thing where you can wave your hand over the sensor and have it show your notifications. Nothing like that. No smart pause when you're watching a video to turn your head away and it pauses automatically. Nothing like that on here. What you do have is TouchWiz. And as time has gone on, I used to be a really big fan of TouchWiz, but after using the Galaxy S4 Mini for about a couple weeks, really kind of not liking TouchWiz so much anymore. The cartoony look and feel of it, the appeal just lost me completely at this point. Really used to love it, but I'm desperately waiting an update to the software because at this point in time, I'm getting pretty darn sick of the TouchWiz that we have on the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini. Now my final con that I have with the device is actually the biggest con I have for it, and that's the price. The Galaxy S4 Mini is currently selling for about $49.99 with a new 2-year contract on Verizon Wireless. And while that's not a bad price, you can currently pick up the Moto G, the Moto X, the LG G2, the Motorola Droid Mini, and a couple other handsets for the same or just a few bucks more on Verizon. So even though this is being marketed towards first-time smartphone buyers, or if you just need a new phone that doesn't cost you a lot of money. I understand how it's not a bad phone in that respect, but when there are better options for the same price, Moto G, the Moto X, LG G2, you name it, it really becomes hard to justify this purchase of the smartphone, and that's really where I ended up having to give it a 6 out of 10 for my final score. This isn't a bad product necessarily, but it's just that there's a lot of room for improvement. That screen really hurt it for me because the 960 by 540 QHD resolution just doesn't cut it that much anymore. Design pretty ugly, and again, that price tag is just way too high for what this brings to the table. If this was free with a new tier contract, I could probably see the justification there a bit more, but paying $50 when you could be getting better smartphones for the same money really just killed it for me with the Galaxy S4 Mini on Verizon Wireless. So there you guys go. That's my full review of this phone. If you have any suggestions or comments about the phone, let me know in the comments below. And that's about all the time we have for this episode of MCOJ. Guys, if you like the video, please go ahead and hit the like button if you liked it, and also hit the subscribe button as well to show your support towards the show. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, circle us on Google+, and subscribe to us here on YouTube. All the social media channels, we are on them. Make sure you head on over to our website at www.mobilecupofjoe.com for the latest in technology news, reviews, giveaways, and more. I'm Joe Martin from mobilecupofjoe.com. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.